Well, 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 welcome back, Bonnet Heads. How are you? I am Pamela Bob, creator of Living on a Prairie, and your host. And I'm here with Grand Q&A Masters, my hashtag imaginary boyfriend, Dean Butler, and our lovable prairie bitch, Allison Arngrim. How are you guys?
Good. Good. How are you this morning?
Yes.
It was a race to get here this morning. Coming from the west side of Los Angeles to get over into, to get into Burbank, beautiful downtown Burbank, or Toluca Lake, I guess, is it can be a little harrowing to get here. And then working in a stop at Starbucks, which is essential to start the day.
You are
just
so
got here.
LA. Never a more LA thing was ever spoke.
I had to get from the west side, but I had to stop at Starbucks. That's it's an LA thing. Hence why I am zooming. Why I'm zooming from my living room.
Yeah, well, exactly. And so where do you have to be at 10 o'clock?
I got to be, because I got to be down the street. I would have to come all the way back here because I'm going down the street to get my roots.
Right.
Another
the hair needs to get done.
Another LA thing to say.
Yeah.
Right. I got to go to the hairdresser because it's like a major thing.
Is that really? Are these the things that prairie folk talk about? I mean, Starbucks and roots. Well, roots they could talk about, but not hair roots.
Do people say salon now? I still call it the beauty parlor. I go to the beauty parlor.
Well, okay, so you're that's very prairie-like. That's very prairie folk.
That's right.
Yeah,
in Mrs. Whipple's underground mani-pedi beauty parlor in her basement. Yes, that's my theory. I'm sticking to it. No, it's so funny because when I came back home, to New York from LA, I was like, man, they've got it easy over there. Traffic, that's their only thing. They've got weather, they've got calm, they've got space. And New Yorkers we're archaic how we live. It's not normal how we live, but it's also exciting and fun.
But that it's the compression of people in New York that gives it
and the
this
energy,
vitality that's really powerful when you're there.
But you can go places in New York without a car.
Yeah.
You can get on the Magic Subway.
Yes.
We can't. There's places where you can, thank heavens.
It's
but there's
coming.
whole swaths of America where you are either going to get in a car or you're going to be Paul Ingalls wearing out your $3 boots to go 40 miles.
Well, and that's why I think New Yorkers are very, very pioneer savvy because, we have to walk. It's a walking city.
It's a great city to walk in.
And in the snow and the rain and the hail and the whatever, we got to do it.
The slush is not great to walk in, but it's a great city to walk in. It's very high energy. Of course, I have not walked on the streets of but I have not walked on the streets of New York. Since really like the late 80s was the last time I was really there. So I don't know how it's walking in New York.
It's nicer now.
Is it better now?
Okay. No, they've changed. I mean, all of Times Square and down through 34th Street, they've changed it all to pedestrian. So the roads are blocked off. It's all family-friendly, user-friendly.
Times Square is like going to Universal now.
It is. It's really weird. I actually don't like it at all, even though it's much safer. But it's very Disney, because I grew up there, so New York had a grittiness. It wasn't nice, but it was gritty.
Yes, it was gritty.
New York.
So it's not gritty anymore. I mean, parts of New York are certainly gritty.
But I will say it's a really different city than it was
back
in your
back
day.
then. In the
days
I visited in 1977. It was very interesting in 1977.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't, even as a kid, as a teenager, I couldn't walk around Times Square by myself.
Yeah.
Not safe.
Yeah, really.
So, there are improvements, but with the improvements comes sort of a stripping away of authentic New York City.
Sure. I mean, most of us now see, New York and Times Square on New Year's Eve. That's probably where most of America sees New York. Yeah. And that's just a glitter of lights and LED and incredible billboards and, all of that.
Yes, and Elmos and Cookie Monsters who accost you to take pictures with you.
Oh, is that right?
It's all good and bad. It's good and bad.
And that's right. You had the scary Elmo impersonator problem in New York, did you? We have that on Hollywood Boulevard, but you had a crazy dude who was like, I am Elmo. And he wasn't like the sanctioned or licensed Elmo at all.
There are tons of them.
He was awful. He was like awful. He was like crazy person, mean guy dressed as Elmo. And it was
and the sad thing is they'll go into the staircase of the subway, either usually at 49th Street and Broadway, to take a break. But they'll take off their Elmo head or their Cookie Monster head and like hang out. But kids are walking by, so it's like
so they're
really
they're backstage,
disturbing.
But they're on stage at the same time. Yeah,
Elmo's smoking.
It's very sad. It's exactly that. It's like, we should not be seeing this at all.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we won't see anything like that in Marshfield, Missouri this weekend when we're there for the Cherry Blossom Festival.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a talk about contrast. Times Square and Marshfield, Missouri, and Mansfield, Missouri, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump. Sort of equidistant from Springfield. And I think it's sort of equidistant. The geography is, I'm not quite clear on the geography, but they seem like sort of close to each other.
But they're two separate events, yes?
Yes,
the Cherry Blossom Festival,
right.
and then
I'm saying I'm going to go to Mansfield because it's close.
Got it.
Yeah, not because there's an event there.
Yeah, I see. Mansfield is Laura's house. It's right up the road.
Correct.
And we often pay a visit, when cast members are in Marshfield doing the fabulous Cherry Blossom Festival, which is a totally bonkers event because it's like historical.
So how do you describe the Cherry Blossom Festival? It's so different from what we do.
It's because it's historical because the man who started it, the Reverend Nick, he is a history nerd buff, loves the history. So you'll have like relatives of George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and Grover Cleveland. And then you'll have Lulu Roman from Hee Haw and people from the Waltons and people from Little House on the Prairie and Butch Patrick.
Eric Roberts is supposed to be at the Cherry Blossom Festival. Eric Roberts in my estimate, could not be farther from the whole, the whole sort of Americana vibe. Eric Roberts has got so much edge.
And he will be right there next to the Prairie people and the Hee Haw people and Grover Cleveland's grandson auctioning cherry pie. Because and these will all be held, the events, the lunches, the dinners in church halls. But all the different churches, this man has gotten all the different churches, the Methodist, the Church of God, the Assembly of God, the Catholic Church, to all talk to each other and cooperate together to throw this event. It's amazing.
Wow.
That's pretty amazing.
When he started it, the big joke was they didn't have any cherry trees. And he was like, technicality, I'll plant some. It'll be great. He started with the Medal of Initiative, I'm blanking on the name because he's the guy, the telescope, the Hubble.
The Hubble telescope. Right.
Marshfield, Missouri's claim to fame is Edwin Hubble of the telescope.
Wow.
That's why he does the Hubble Award.
Yes.
Okay.
And there is a giant Hubble telescope in the town square, and it's a thing. Hubble is from there. So he started with a dinner, like the Hubble dinner, and went, we've got a claim to fame. We've got Hubble. I'll do a dinner. And he was able to get a couple of people to come because people were like, where's Marshfield? What? Who? What? And he said, no, I'm going to have this dinner. And he did. And it was a success. And then he had another dinner. And he got a few more people. And this built. And then he had the Hubble. And then he started having the Cherry Blossom thing. And it started as a teeny tiny little thing. He got a lot of celebrities who happened to live in Missouri.
Wow.
Now he's got people literally coming from all over the world to Marshfield, Missouri for a whole celebrity and yet historical Cherry Blossom Festival.
Yeah, it sounds like a potpourri.
It is a potpourri, definitely.
A potpourri of entertainers,
personalities, and
art. The educational panels, historical panels are mind blowing. It's actually really cool.
I think I'm going to be doing one with Bill Anderson, talking about
our beloved Bill Anderson.
all things Little House books, including my own. So that'll be fun.
Yeah,
that'll be fun. I always enjoy spending time with Bill.
There it is. Bam, Dean Butler.
Thank you so much. And also later this morning after we finish this, and we want to move on to our real topic today, but later this morning having a meeting in Simi Valley to explore Little House 50th 2.0. which which people will be,
super exciting.
Yeah. So we're looking at this. The Simi Valley Chamber of Commerce and the city of Simi Valley was so blown away by the response that our event got that they thinking, how can we, or it's important to keep this going. And so they have identified, I believe, a location where sets and elements of memorabilia will be reinstalled. And then the Big Sky Ranch tour will continue in a different form, but it will continue, and there will be more announcements about that. But it's very exciting. Simi Valley is all in on this, so we're really. I'm very excited to be part of this, and Cast will have many opportunities to participate in as this grows.
I'm so showing up. It's not far. I'll be like, I could do a book signing every weekend.
Well,
yes,
like I said to you guys before we were recording, I said, this is, I think, the number one question people have is what's happening. Can we tour?
Well, I think you should introduce us, the podcast, and then let's get into it.
From the studios of UB & Go in Burbank, California, visit SimiValley.com presents a special event podcast. This is the Little House 50 for 50 podcast. And we are, as always, so grateful to SimiValley.com for their commitment to present this podcast that celebrates its 50th anniversary year. Crazy pants.
Crazy pants. We also thank
crazy bloomers.
Allison, do you want to thank our additional great supporters here in this first segment?
I do, but I don't have that up on
I can. So I'll read it. Okay, so I'll read it for you. Yeah. So we also want to thank Cozy TV and Rodex, Modern Prairie, Price Ford, the City of Simi Valley, and Adventist Health Simi Valley, among others, who we will talk about later. Pamela.
Awesome. So we sent out a call saying you have 24 hours. Give us your questions. We're doing a Q&A episode today. So you guys came through. Through. So I am getting the questions up. Here we go.
How many questions did you get?
Oh, I mean,
it was more than 5.
Dozens and dozens and dozens.
Dozens of questions.
Dozens
okay.
And dozens.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay, this is, I think, my favorite question, and it's a really deep one. So it might take a
you're
minute
using
to
like the
think
best
about
question first.
Should I save it?
It's up to you. I mean, you're a person who understands structure of these things.
Let's start with a bang, and then we can go simpler.
Okay,
they're all good.
Okay.
This question was actually written by Laura Trujillo, who was the journalist who wrote the USA Today article that came out.
Which was a lovely article with great pictures.
We love her. The article was so amazing. What was really weird about that was that Chris Chaika and Amy C. Elliott, the documentarian, who the three of us are buddies,
really
texted me over the link to the article saying, check out this article. It's perfect. It's perfect. And I was like, oh, cool. And I opened it. And as I was opening it, Laura, the journalist, was actually commenting on my Instagram post. Wow. So it was this weird connection. And then I contacted her and then we talked and it was lovely. She's great.
Awesome.
Anyway, here's her question.
Okay.
She says, so Allison is interesting because she manages to continue to appeal to the conservative and liberal sides, even when her work for what would be considered liberal causes. Does she see the Little House as a place that can unite the country?
Absolutely.
I know that's
Little House on the Prairie does cross all boundaries. There are people who watch Little House because they just find current television so like a bit too much with the sex and the violence and the weirdness for their kids. I know people said, I just unplugged the whole thing. I got the Little House DVDs and we go, that's TV now because we just can't deal. And yet I also have met people who are drag queens doing Jello shots, like every time they say Dr. Baker, take a drink.
Right.
It's just insane stuff. College students. I mean, I meet people absolutely from every possible walk of life, every possible part of humanity, and literally all over the world, old, young, everything, who love the show on all different levels. People who watch it and go, it's beloved, but it's funny. And this is a weird thing I've noticed about Little House. Usually with an old TV show, it's either beloved and revered or it's funny and people make fun of it. But they make fun of it because it's tacky, ha ha ha, but they're not revering it. And the people who have shows where they love and revere them would never make fun of them. Weirdly.
And then there's me.
You could do both. Yeah. People will watch the show, break down and cry over the emotional episodes, revere the show, love the show, talk about how the show saved their lives, and then go, Carrie went to the outhouse again, and what is with Pa taking his shirt off? Come on.
Totally.
And they will giggle, and laugh at the
that's
funny
me.
Yeah.
That
is you, Pamela. Yeah.
That the show did this, and then 5 minutes later they are sobbing and they go, "No, I love this show. It is my life." And both of these things can exist in the brain at the same time, which I've not seen with other shows. And I think that's one of the crossover things. I have seen people who are absolutely from just opposite ends of religious spectrum, political spectrum, lifestyle spectrum, just general attitude toward everything spectrum. But you get them in a room, they're going, "Oh my God, what's your favorite episode?" And you bet it's a crossover show, and I think people should rally around it, really.
And I think it shows that we're all closer than we think. That this separation is absurd. And I compare Little House on the Prairie. The only other figure I can compare it to is Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton does the same thing.
Yeah.
She's a figure that crosses over every single every spectrum.
It's true. She does.
Dolly Parton is a saint, and Dolly Parton is a better person than any of us will ever be.
And everyone loves her from every end of the spectrum. So
I think if there were something that would, if we could find things that could bring us together and really rally around those things, I think we would benefit as a country, as individuals, from finding those common points. Television used to provide a lot of commonality, but we are so fragmented now because of the way our media comes at us that it's very hard to build synergy around any particular thing on a large scale. Now, I mean, actually, social media does create massive synergy around things, but it's also, as we see, it's so divisive. Little House tends to be something that it does tend to bring people together in spirit of forgiveness and acceptance and good
and
overall
goodness. And as much as social media can provide that synergy, it also can fragment it because you get into your own personal algorithm.
Of course.
You're only seeing what's in your bubble for the most part.
Yeah.
When social media started, it wasn't like that, but that's now how it is.
Entertainment is so fragmented because, we used to, when I had 3 channels and UHF and PBS. We had 3 channels. Yeah. And so the entire country sat down together and watched shows. You had your fall lineup. TV didn't start till a certain time and date.
8 p.m.
TV shows started in the fall on this date, and they start this time. Remember when the TV would go off the air late at night?
Yes, national anthem, then static.
And then they'd have that astronaut speech and everything, the poem about loose the foothold of Earth thing. And then there'd be weird music, and then there'd be a test pattern. They'd be done.
You were staying up way too late as a young person. If you were seeing, were you seeing this regularly?
Clearly. And so, it would end. And then so you had their fall lineup, and you had summer reruns, and you had pilots. It was all there was a schedule. It gave form and structure to our lives.
Yes, it did. It did.
And everyone watched the same stuff. You'd have 40 million people. Now, it's these people are watching this channel. These people are watching cable. These people are watching streaming. They're watching this streaming. These people are watching YouTube. And it's like,
Well, we've I think it's nice that we could bring things together. Laura, that's a great question, and thank you for the beautiful article that you put together for USA Today. It was really a fantastic rerun of the essential elements of our event, which was just fantastic. So, next.
Okay, I'm going to combine the next 2 questions into one because they're similar. So Julie asks, "Hello, Allison or Dean. Could either of you please share a story about Hersha Parody? I was so sorry to hear of her passing last summer and wish she was here to join the podcast. Any stories you can share with fans?" So Julie asks that. And then Jess Ulmer asks, Mrs. Arngrim, very formal. I wanted to ask you about Steve Tracy. Was he shy, outgoing? Did he have a sense of humor? Was he a prankster, etc.? So, can you guys talk a little about those two beloved cast members?
I can start with Hersha, and Allison, you can continue with Steve, because you obviously had a really great relationship there. You know, Hersha. My sense of Hersha is that she was a very outspoken. You know, if she had an opinion about something, she was going to tell you, and. I guess, you know, obviously Hersha's work is Hersha's work. We all see that obviously in the years since the show, and while she was still with us, one of Hersha's favorite things to do was to, you know, sit down with a drink in a bar somewhere and just like unload. With, you know, all kinds of topics, but she loved her drinks, and I think was there cigarettes involved too, or just drinks? I don't.
For a while, she did quit, I think, at one point. Yes, back in the day.
But she definitely liked her adult beverages, but I wouldn't have said too extreme, but she enjoyed her adult beverages, and she was funny and opinionated, and boy, and Hersha could turn very quickly too. You know, that's, you know, when
she sounds like she was a broad.
Absolutely. And if you got into it with Hersha, you were going to get the full measure of her opinion on a topic. And with no relenting. And it wasn't necessarily, she wasn't going to hold anything back. She was going to tell you what she thought about the issue and about you.
Now, was she like that on set? Did she do that?
Oh, yeah. I think absolutely.
Did she get in trouble for it, or was it sort of like
no? I wouldn't have said anyone got. Allison, did you get in trouble? No, I think
House of the Prairie. We tolerated all sorts of nonsense.
Yeah.
Hersha was. I mean, she was mercurial. I mean, we used to
mercurial. That's a great word to describe Hersha.
Yeah. We joke about that. She said she was coming to a party, and if she said, "Okay, I changed my mind, I'm not coming," we go, "Okay, the odds of her showing up just increased 60%." And then if she said, "I'm definitely coming," damn, that's just the odds went down, because this is the opposite day with her. She was a brilliant stage actress. She did a lot of plays in LA, and was a member of a couple of theater companies. And we went to see her quite frequently. My God, she was amazing on stage. But yes, she loved good food and drink and men, and she was a brat. I mean, she would like say, "Yes, I am a brat." This absolutely who she was, proud of it. And one time we were at a party, and she got up. An opinion. She got going on something. And Bob, yes, my Bob, get the wig, Bob.
Get the wig.
Took her on, and it was hilarious because several people thought, are they having a real argument or a fake argument? And he said, "Oh, no, it's an Ohio thing. You wouldn't understand." Because she was originally from Ohio, as was Bob. And he said, "It's an Ohio thing." There's these weird Ohio things.
So what is an Ohio thing for those not from Ohio?
Hard to explain, but it was that they could argue about certain topics.
Yes.
And it wasn't a problem. It was like standard
Okay,
Ohio
so it's just the sport of it. It's a sporting argument.
Yes, they were up in each other's face, going da 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 da. And she said something and Bob was like, "Don't bring that Ohio bull around here. I'm from Akron. Don't start with me." And it was freaking hilarious. But yes, she was abroad, and she was so loving, and just so overflowing with life. It was just craziness.
Yeah.
Okay, our boy Steve.
Your boy Steve.
My boy Steve. He was so wonderful. I mean, I've talked about how you're married on TV, especially as you're a teenager. Like, you're getting a husband. I'm getting a what? And, Melissa and I, seeing every guy who came on the set going, "Is that him? Is that him? Is that him?" And then he showed up. It was like, "Oh, well, let it be him." And he comes up and he's so darling, and did the little freckles across his nose and the curly hair and glass. And he was so sweet. So we're like, okay, this guy's cool. And then we talked to him, and he was so nice and so smart and so funny. And he had trained with Lembeck, Harvey Lembeck improv workshops. We had this incredible comedic timing
deal.
And yeah. And he was so. You talk about actors being generous and stuff and helping in the scene and being complimentary. He was interviewed right after he got the part of, "Oh, you got this job," and blah 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 blah. And he said stuff he didn't have to say. I was 17, 18 when he showed up. and he was a good 9-10 years older than I was. And he, in the article, just saying it's really great because working with Allison because she has such great comedic timing and we're able to play off each other, blah, 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 blah. And said all this incredibly complimentary stuff. And I was a teenager. He didn't have to say that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He could have said, well, she's okay for someone who's not like even really 18 and hasn't been to improv class, blah, blah, blah. No, he was like, oh, she's great. And he was a very cool person.
You were born with great comedic timing, Allison. Yeah. It's just, you
can't learn that.
Have that.
You're either born with it or not.
Yeah.
He was, okay, the best way I can explain like who Steve Tracy was, because he was so brave, so strong. So when he was diagnosed with AIDS in the early 80s, and this is before they really had cocktail stayed in of AZT, they'd like nothing. So he was on an experimental drug trial. One of the really early ones, an interferon thing, which is interesting because part of it did become a building block for what we call the cocktail now, a million years later. So he's doing these injections and everything's just kind of awful. I mean, he's sick and there's not much going on. He's doing this thing. And I said, is this treatment, is it like unpleasant? He goes, oh yeah, it's really painful. Some people have dropped out of the study because it like hurts. And I'm like, you're not, oh no, that sort of thing doesn't bother me. And I'm like, wow. I said, so is it working? Is it working? Are you getting better? Is this going to work? And that's when he freaked me out because he said, oh no, it's too late for me. Wow. I said, what? Wow. He said, oh, no, it won't save me. It's too late for me. But I'm doing this so that maybe they can save somebody else after I'm gone.
Yeah.
That's the kind of person Steve Tracy was. And
that's very brave to be able to look at it that way.
Technically, some stuff from that interferon trial did later become a building block of some of the stuff that is used today. So I guess he did. Save some people.
Did he have a hand in your activism, or were you already active in that whole world before you met Steve?
He absolutely was the impetus for getting involved in AIDS activism because he was so lucky. I mean, obviously he'd been on a TV show. He had friends. He had coworkers. He had people to help him. His mom and his sister were like on the first plane out from Florida to come help him. And they took him home when he got really sick. So they were behind him. Whereas many people, that wasn't the case. In the early 80s, there were people, their families just like stopped talking to them. They were abandoned. They had no friends. They had nothing. They had no money. So he was doing that. So when I would visit him, it's like, well, he'd say, I got the guy from APLA coming and the guy from Shanti's coming and the guy from Angel. He's like, I'm kind of set up here. I don't need that kind of help. I need, people to hang out with and have fun. But I quickly saw that there were people who had nothing, who were sicker than he was and had nothing going, didn't have any kind of insurance. They didn't have a doctor. Their family wasn't flying out to see if they were okay. Nothing. And that these people needed help. And also because I got so many weird phone calls as soon as he got sick, like, so how does it work and how do you get it and what does it mean and how long does he have and now do you have it? I was like, so I wound up taking the hotline training in order to have answers for everybody. I mean, I worked the hotline, I did the volunteer work, but it was also because I saw that there was a terrible, terrible need for information and for assistance to these other people. Now, I was always active in something. You may remember like a million years ago when I was like 12, I would go with a bunch of people to the Special Olympics games at UCLA every summer and was very involved being a Special Olympics booster from 12 on. And I went like all the time. I think my first signs of activism, I was about 6-7 years old, and they had just come out with the Surgeon General has determined that smoking is hazardous to your health.
Yeah.
And my parents let me, right before going to bed, come out to the cocktail party they were having, put on my American Cancer Society little hat visor, and walk around and say, the Surgeon General has determined that smoking is hazardous to your health.
Wow.
To their friends who were smoking. And my parents would shrug and go, she's right, I mean, we really are all quitting, right? I mean, what was she wrong? And I was allowed to be an anti-cancer, anti-smoking activist at 7.
My God, if I could have been at one of your parents' parties, that's a life, baby. That's a life.
We should take
I'm always doing something. Yeah.
We should take a quick break right here.
Yeah.
All right, you think?
Yeah, let's try it.
Let's do it.
When you visit Simi Valley, California, you are stepping into the pages of history. Go from the pioneers to the presidents Explore beautiful wildflowers, hike through iconic Hollywood locations, and end your day aboard the actual Air Force One at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum. Less than 15 minutes from Los Angeles and 30 minutes from Universal Studios, Simi Valley has small-town charm with big-time history. Go to visitsimivalley.com for more information.
More questions. Here we go. Okay. The music interludes are my favorite. Jess Ulmer also had a little extra question, which she wants to know, Dean, what was it like working with a young Shannen Doherty?
Yes. I remember Shannen. She was an adorable kid to begin with. And actually, my wife, Catherine, before she was my wife, had worked with Shannen for the first time on Father Murphy and formed a very strong opinion about Shannon's commitment, her energy, her desire to succeed. And that was very apparent to me when I first met Shannen on our set. There was no doubt in my mind that Shannen was one of those people who you knew wanted to be a star. That was she wore that all over her. It was crystal clear. That's where she was headed, and that's a very particular kind of energy, and you know it. And I think people who become stars who become really well known, it doesn't happen by accident. It's a very intentional thing. And it has to be worked and nurtured and committed to. And Shannen had all of that. And I think she had great work ethic. She came in, she knew her stuff. She was ready to go. And she was great. She was a sponge. She wanted to know everything, and she did what she needed to do to learn. And I mean, when Shannen became a little more notorious as she moved on in her career, but that energy that she had, I think, was very clear very early on in the game. Allison, you may have a take on. Although you were, by the time Shannen came, you were really gone at that point.
She
right?
came on I was going out. She was coming in. I mean, she was at my party in the return of Nellie. That was really the I got to hang out with her at all.
Yeah. So, but I think she's great. I hope we can have her on. I mean, Shannen now is dealing with some very, very serious health issues. She has brain cancer. I think it would be wonderful to have her on. I'm sorry she was not able to attend the 50th anniversary event in Simi Valley, but I'm sure that she would have things to say about her Little House experience.
She's starting to go to more events, and I mean, I think she's been public about it that she's fighting stage 4 cancer. She was admitted and it's come back, but she's out doing a lot of public stuff now, and I think trying to also bring attention to that as well. So
Yep.
Yeah. And she has her own podcast now too. But I did see her. I saw on Facebook pictures of her at another signing event. So she's doing it. And I know she's talked about Michael Landon, I believe, on her podcast very fondly. So okay. Next question. Here we go. This is one for me. Pamela, what has surprised you most in getting to know the cast? Either collectively or one cast member specifically.
Be very careful, Pamela, as you answer this question.
I will say they're awful. They're monsters. They're monsters.
That's us.
No, I will say collectively, they're all pretty wonderful. I mean, truly grounded and friendly and welcoming and warm. And just to prove that was when I launched Living on a Prairie, they all really rallied around me. And these were, I'd only met Allison and Charlotte and maybe one more, but they really, really rallied around me, who was for them a stranger who had just made this funny little show about someone obsessed with Little House on the Prairie, and they couldn't have been more supportive and more kind, and they hopped on board when I asked if I could interview them, and they've been amazing. I will say the one thing that has really hit me from knowing all of them is I don't think any of them really got the accolades they deserved. And that makes me sad. I know the show is we're still celebrating it 50 years later, and obviously events and signing events and all that sort of stuff. So I know you guys know that you have fans that love you. But I think it's really absurd that there were no Emmys, right? Like, I find it absurd that aspect of the business sort of didn't wrap their arms around you more, and that makes me a little upset.
I think a lot of that, in all fairness to the community, I think a lot of the Emmy game, the award game, is something that producers have to get very, very involved in, and they have to push that. Michael was not a guy who pushed for his own recognition, nor did he push for other actors' recognition. He did push for David Rose's recognition as a composer. He did push for Ted Voigtlander's recognition as a cinematographer. He was very interested in the acknowledgement of the technical work on the show. I don't think that he felt it. Just the emphasis on acting awards was not. I just don't think was a big deal to Michael. I think he was much more interested in the audience liking the show. Which was good, because really a lot of people in the industry in New York did not get us. They did not get us. I mean, it's just on somebody in Facebook, they said, I love the show, but really, it's not they said for them, a family or children's show. They said it's a drama because heavy things go on. Yeah. They said, look at how many people die. And I said, thank you for saying this, because although, yes, it has things that handles issues in a way a family can process together, when we were doing it and people would dismiss it, I remember even TV Guide as this heartwarming, soft, fuzzy children's show. I was like, how many people did we kill this month?
Or were kidnapped, or were, totally.
It's like a soap opera. And we were doing it, and they did not watch it, and they did not get what we were doing at all. So that was that problem. And I remember Michael said something once, and I think it was probably when our Melissa Sue was actually nominated, and he said, the Emmys are weird. I mean, they kind of do all the New York shows one year, and then the LA shows another year, and then it's New York shows, and it's probably the New York shows really now. And she was like, what are you talking? Where are you? Huh? Yeah, he was right. It was right. And it was like, well, actually, they're going to do all the New York shows, and they did. And so there was all kinds. There was like the New York LA thing where that's not like a thing now. And there were certain shows, if you look back in the 70s, and they were good, that won massive Emmys over and over again, years in a row, and had massive, really important written reviews in Variety and Daily Reporter and TV Guide, and we did not. But then you're like, and where are these shows now? And it's like, wait, what happened? We were the people's. We were the people's show. Sure. I think that's true. And I think that's fair enough. And it was not, we were never edgy enough, although there was a lot of interesting topics, but it was done in a way, as Allison said, that was really
Sylvia. One word,
yes,
Sylvia.
Yeah, but it was done in a way that was more accessible. It wasn't, it was, and it was done for the purpose of teaching a lesson, about human behavior. We were edgy as hell, and people just didn't realize that they just...
I mean, Albert vomiting on himself? He vomited on himself. That's
Wisdom
edgy.
of Solomon with Todd Bridges, the wisdom of Solomon you could not get here.
That was a lovely
but people
episode.
sat there and watched it and said, I'm so glad I watched this. They made a really good moral there. People should treat people equally. Wow. And didn't realize that they just watched like an edgy show about racism. Which they would have said, wow, this is an edgy show about racism if they're on the other channel.
Yes.
Right.
No, I get that.
Okay. Well, the H. Collin 66 asked that last question. Okay.
Thank you, H. Collin 66.
Lindsay _Renee asks, well, there's a two-part to this question. And is there anything you wish your character would have done differently, or anything you wish the writers would have done differently for your character? And the next part of it is, were you sad when the show ended, or were you ready to begin something new?
You know, I think I can take that on first. I can't imagine that, Allison, you would have any complaints about the way that you were written. You were written, you were written wonderfully. I think in looking at this, and I think I was so inexperienced at that time, that I didn't really realize how important I would be as just me as the person in driving the way it's written. I mean, actors in a series have a huge influence on how something is written, because writers are going to dailies every day and they're watching. They're looking for something. They're looking for a spark of something that they can grab onto and build on and build into a character.
Right.
And I think for me, I was so focused on being perhaps not controversial or not being threatening, or not that I would ever have been threatening. It's just not the way I occur in the world. But
I think of Dean Butler. I think.
But I feel like I was always walking a very careful line, and if I could have. I wish I could have, in retrospect, it would have been nice to have found those places to not be so careful, just in an instant, to give writers a little spark of something that they could have grabbed onto for me. If I'd had access to be able to bring that stuff in that moment, it might have influenced the way I was written. But overall, I look at it and I think I had some very nice opportunities, and I love the stories that I got to do and so on. But I think actors do have an influence on all that in a quiet way. Yeah. Allison, you can speak to that, because you and Catherine just you spilled all over the screen, and the writers jumped all over that.
But it's a feeding cycle. Absolutely. The writers write this, and then the actor does it, and they're kind of like, well, how'd that go? We wrote a script where this thing happens. Did it work? Could they do it? How did it come out?
Right.
Whoa, that went really well. I guess we'll write more of that stuff. And it becomes a whole vicious circle, as it were. Right. Then you get more of that. And if you go, I can do that. And with Nellie, it absolutely was this ante-up poker game where they would give me
how bad can you be? And how nasty can you be? How wicked can you be? Yeah. And there was no end to it. Frankly,
there was a war of escalation. I would get a script where I go, wow, that's pretty terrible. But I'd go, well, and I'd approach it with great relish and elan, as it were. And go, okay, wah. And they'd see this and go, damn, I guess okay. And then I'd start getting going, she's getting worse. Whoa, what'd I do? Okay, well, if you're going to be like that about it, how about this then? And it did. Yeah. And then it was like, pretend to be paralyzed, go downhill in a wheelchair. Seriously? Okay. And so then I went, if we're going to do that, ta-da! And then it was like, and I think as is the ultimate, totally it was the whole pickles and maple syrup thing, where Nellie's pregnant and we're doing these pregnancy gags, and they're getting crazier and crazier, because it's like, yes, sure. Steve and I are totally going with it. So it's like, we'll make it nuttier. These two are funny. And then I'm eating pickles and ice cream. And I totally was like, yes, pickles and ice cream. And Michael was like, we have a bucket. You don't have to eat all the pickles and ice cream. I'm like, no, I'm going to eat all the pickles and ice cream. Besides, it's not going to take me but 2 takes. It was like, challenge. And so I ate my pickles and ice cream, and it did only take me 2 takes. And I did finish the pickle and the ice cream and went, in your face. And the next day I come in, and he says, we've added a scene, and it's the pickles and maple syrup.
Yeah, right. Of course.
I dare you. And of course I ate them too. But yes, it was like this thing, watching how it got crazier and crazier. Nellie started to get funnier and funnier and more outrageous. And I'm like, I see a trend. And so I would run with it, and then they'd run with it until we got. Right. The only thing I would ask is, when I got nice, it was like people weren't quite sure what to do with me. It was hysterical for so many minutes with Percival and then the babies. And then it got well, now we have another nice lady in a restaurant. And
right.
Blah.
Well, that's why, and that's why they had Nancy to like, to bring the
episodes where Nellie went back and forth, where she was nice to Percival or only nice when Percival was in the room, and he'd leave the room and be like, what? I could have cut that up for 3 or 4 episodes. That was so much fun. I could have done that longer.
That was really fun stuff. No question. Yeah. I mean,
so then were you ready to leave the show when it was, were you sad or were you ready to leave?
I started when I was 12. It's been 7 years. As I said, I was just starting junior high when I got the show. And I went all through junior high. I went all through high school. I graduated high school. I got my braces on my teeth. I got my braces off my teeth. I moved out of my parents. I got my first apartment. I went from there. I got a condominium. And I was still wearing the wig. It was weird. And I was like, oh, my God, I've been in this thing like a third of my lifetime. What are we doing? And my father made a crack. He made a crack about continuing in the show that I was going to turn it to Miss Kitty from Gunsmoke. And I was like, God, what a thing to say. But then I also had that thing, I was a girl in Hollywood and I just turned 18 and people saying, oh, well, if you weren't on the show, we have movies and other stuff you could be doing. And I was doing stand-up and I wanted to do theater. And there was like a world of things for an 18, 19-year-old young woman to go do in life as well as in TV. And I went, well, if I stay here, I think I'll go. I'll go.
Yeah.
Dean, what about you?
Yeah, and I wish that it would have been nice to have another year in the position that I was in. That would have been really good because I think it would have, I would have gained more experience, had the opportunity to be at the top of a call sheet for another year or more, which would have been a really good thing. But, but it was time. The show the series had run its course and it was time to close it up, and Michael closed it up definitively. And, no one was going to question his decision about how he was going to do this. I mean, he'd gotten everybody to where it was. This was the way it was going to go. And I think he did it. He was true to himself and what he wanted to do. And we were all in there with him and did what went in the direction that he wanted to go. And that's what it was.
Okay, great. Next question. Ready? Stuffelstream asks, which cast member of Little House on the Prairie was the one who always had you excited to go to set if you knew you were working a scene with them?
Everybody.
But I mean, I would have said 2 in particular. I would have said, and I say this because I'm going to say what I'm going to say because the working with Catherine McGregor and with Victor French was a very active experience. There was just a lot of chemistry that would happen as you worked, as you rehearsed a scene. Look, you got to rehearse a scene literally, maybe you got to rehearse for 10 minutes and the scene was lit. And then you were in there to do the scene. You had to make decisions very quickly about what you were going to do. And working with the two of them, they both created a lot of freedom around them to explore what you were going to do. Now, Victor could do it as a director and as an actor. Catherine did it as an actress and in an incredible way, and it was just so much fun. And Allison, you did so many scenes with Catherine. I mean, you could write a book about that. But I think the two of them were amazing. It was, you love doing scenes with Michael because you just saw this incredible calculation going on all the time as to how this was going to play. And but you didn't explore it with Michael. It was done in his head before he got there. So you were just going to do this with him. And I think now Melissa had other experiences with Michael where it was a very there was a very, as she describes it, a symbiotic relationship where there was this very powerful emotional exchange going on all the time. And that was a very special thing. And to watch the two of them do that, that was, I think, wasn't unique to them, but they had that. And that was really special to watch in their work together. For me, Victor and Catherine McGregor.
I would say for me, I mean, Catherine was man, but Steve Tracy and Melissa Gilbert, because Steve Tracy, or as I said, chemistry. All of the actors, it was the chemistry between all of us was like, and obviously with Steve Tracy, it was going to have fun. Working with Melissa, if it was a big, heavy, Laura Nellie episode, even when we, we're getting older, but also when we're young, it's going to have a lot of scenes with her. The crazy thing is I would be excited because it also meant it was almost like, oh, well, I won't really be having to do any work. That we were like psychically linked by like the second season that we knew what the other was going to do. Say, like we could raise one eyebrow and like know what that meant and have like conversations without speaking. And we were so insanely connected and knew which direction, like a dance, like where the other one was going and what we're going to do. You didn't have to think about it. You got in a scene with her, the two of us, we get in a scene. We didn't have to like think about it. We knew where this was going to go. We knew what we were going to say and how it was going to feel and where we were going to just like, well, we're going to do the thing. And it was like weirdly relaxing.
Because you were able to lay back.
You trusted each other.
You didn't have to work. Yeah, totally.
You trusted each other.
Like,
that's a really nice thing.
You were safe.
Yeah, and Victor French was an amazing director. He directed one of my favorites. Victor French directed the Talking Machine episode.
Oh, he did? Oh.
The Talking Machine.
Victor was a wonderful
that
director.
Maniacal grin when I decide to do the thing. That is all Victor. Yeah.
Victor had a full grasp of the technology and the knowledge of how to direct television, but Victor went a step farther in that he really got actively involved with you as on the crafting part of it, and he loved doing that with other
he direct you. We all said Michael would kind of go and now do the thing.
Right.
Yes, that was
right.
The thing.
It was just a different energy. Both great results, but Victor, you felt like you were actually in it with him.
Yeah. He was molding. You were clay.
Working with you, Dean, because of course everyone loves the Cinnamon Chicken episode, but that was also fun when I say it was because you were so different. First of all, you were new on the show. It's like, what's he going to do? Ooh, this will be fun. And we were so different in how we arrived at like her performances, which made it really work. Like pew pew pew, like the scene when you were working on the house and I come around with like I have cookies. Yeah. That was demented. That was absolutely hilarious. And you were just being so straightforward, just like no. And I'm like trying to be conniving and all this stuff. And
is this when I love kidneys? Is that what it is?
Yes, and
right.
I'm trying to steal you from Laura. And it is just boom, no sale, boom, no sale. I am getting absolutely nowhere. And then kidneys. I'm look at the time. I gotta go. It's hysterical. And then obviously what happened in the whole cinnamon chicken sequence. But yeah, it was that you were being so normal. And that no matter what Nellie-isms I did, I couldn't get to you. I couldn't. You weren't buying. You weren't buying the Nellie.
Well, I mean, look, you had even for a new guy in town, you had a reputation. You had to be watched very carefully, and between you and your mother, the reputation was just like, there was no missing who you were. So it was a matter of caution.
How many days or minutes, I don't know, had you been on the set when you had the scene with me and Catherine inviting you to dinner and she is like up in your face and like picking things off your clothes and in your hair and up your nose going,
wasn't that where that's where Zaldamo occurred the first time,
the origin of Zaldamo.
When she's just all over you, because she would get, in your business in a scene. Yeah. And you just got there. And this woman is going, what is your favorite dish? And I'm going, woo-ha. And we're so bizarre.
But that's actually perfect because Almanzo also just got there, right? It probably worked in your favor.
How How long had you been working there when we did that scene?
I think it was probably. No. I think that was a couple of days. That was right away. That scene happened right away. And no, that was all those things were really fun. That was all really fun because the energy was so strong coming at me. You just had to respond to that energy.
You didn't crack. You held your own. And it didn't. This poor man just got here. And Catherine and I are both like, in your face.
I grew up around strong women. So, seeing women come at you in that way was not completely out of bounds in the life that I had grown up in. So, it was enormously entertaining.
Yeah, because a lot of people will be like, I'm not sure I want to do this. I need to go home now.
Oh, God, I bet it was so much fun.
I think we need to take a quick break. Allison, you ready with copy?
I'm ready. When you visit Simi Valley, California, you are stepping into the pages of history. Go from the pioneers to the presidents. Explore beautiful wildflowers, hike through iconic Hollywood locations, and end your day aboard the actual Air Force One at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum. It is less than 15 minutes of Los Angeles and 30 minutes from Universal Studios. Simi Valley has small-town charm with big-time history. Go to visitsimivalley.com for more information.
We also want to thank Alexander GMC of Simi Valley, Golden State Water Company, Marketingscape, Strathern Historical Society, WM, formerly Waste Management, and Vista at Simi Valley Assisted Living. Thank you all. We're going to have to do more questions, Pamela.
I wonder how much time we have left. But
I think we have to stop with questions now because we've got to step out. But we need to do another questions episode
because we have a lot more.
Yeah, there are lots of questions. Yeah.
Can I ask one tiny little one? It can be a really short answer, which is hold on. I just had it. Hold on 2 seconds. Here we go. Amy Lumkola. Sorry, Amy Lumkola. I'm probably mispronouncing that. So what's it like knowing thousands of people still have crushes on y'all?
Is that for Allison or for me?
Both of you.
That would be for you, Dean.
I mean, she said y'all. So it's a collective all, but I would probably say specifically you, Dean Butler.
I am so flattered by the level of warmth and affection that comes at me at these events. Catherine
more
always
than warmth and affection comes at you,
Catherine always says to me, "So you're going off to be adored again this weekend." That's her response to me telling her that I'm going to an event. I think there's just something. There's something in the way that this character was drawn and the sort of in the way that I mixed with it that that touched something really nice for people. There was safety. There was a romance to it. They loved Laura. They wanted to see what was going to happen to Laura. I think that there's just a connection of sort of romantic fantasy that's attached to the way that Almanzo occurred for the audience, that for a segment of the audience that has just been incredible for me. I was, when we were at Simi Valley doing the event, I did a quick social video, a social reel with a mother and a daughter, and the mother was telling the daughter that he was my first crush, and the daughter at 17 was saying he's my first crush too.
Whoa.
And it was like,
I don't know if that's cool or creepy.
Well, it was very sweet the way it happened. Because they're just watching it. They're just watching television. I'm the same guy 45 years later for them. There's no difference. I haven't changed. They're two different people, but I'm the same. in that context.
That personality appeals to women of different generations. That's something that may have changed over the generations, but something about that character, that appeal stayed the same.
So it's been great, and I am incredibly flattered by it, and I always thank my parents and my family for shaping me to be the person I was that made it possible for me to sort of step into that world and be that guy. Because I think that was, I was raised in a very particular way, and I think, it all just synced. It was just a good thing.
Yep, and he still blushes, everybody.
Well,
stays grounded.
Yeah, I write about that in my book. That was like one of the banes of my childhood, but it's worked out all right in the end.
Yeah, it's endearing. It makes people love you even more.
Yes, there you go.
True.
So let's talk. So we're speeding for the exit. As we move forward with the podcast, we need to start talking about, and I invite the audience to offer our listeners to offer some opinions about this, about how we should take this on. I mean, are we taking it on seasonally? Are we taking it on thematically? Are we talking about characters, key relationships,
or key
episodes, cultural impact of episodes? I mean, what do you guys think? How should we take this on as we start looking at from season 1 through the end? Because I think that's what we need to do now, along with talking about all the things that we're doing now. But
and having all your favorite actors on, because we know we love them.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah, I mean, I think what do you think? I mean, how should we do this?
Yeah, what would you guys like us to be doing? Because we want to hear from you.
Well, and I want to know, Pamela and Allison, how you think we should, do you have any opinions about this, about how we should organize this?
Well, I love having on all our favorite coworkers, and that's been going swimmingly. And I think it's also good for them. I've been finding doing this podcast to be like therapy sometimes. I'm like working through this. This is amazing. I feel so much better. So I think the whole cast would get on here at some point or another. It'd be good for you. You do 10 years of therapy in an hour. But yeah, I think we should start exploring some episodes, because I do think there are some key episodes because the ones that people ask about again and again and again. Yeah. So maybe those are things we should hit on. We should do a couple of your favorite episode.
Should we take that on? Should we take it on seasonally? Like, should we look at season 1 and say, here are 4 episodes in season 1 that we're going to talk about?
Yes.
I mean,
you should totally do them in order.
Should we do it like that? I think so too, because it just sort of makes sense, because you're building on something, and it's expand, and then you can talk about how characters expand and grow and change in the context of where they've been and where they're going, and as they arrive at the new places, they continue to grow and expand. All right, well, let's look at it that way then. So season 1, when we come, we're going to start with season 1. And we're going to pick 4 episodes. I'll be there for
the cheeky commentary.
Well, yes, Pamela, that's what you do. You are the cheeky commentary.
That's what I get paid for.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think that's what we need to, and then we'll do more questions. I think we'll take on more questions.
I have so many more questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them, but,
I know.
But we will be doing more and more and more.
I thought we'd do like 10 or 15. No, we did about 6.
There's a lot to talk about.
Deep dive thing happens.
Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you both. Thank you all for listening. Pamela, take us out.
Take us out. Here we go. You've been listening to Little House 50/50 podcast. You can check us out on our socials, on our website, www.littlehouse50podcast.com. You can link up to all of us there and check out your schedules and doings and goings about, and hook up on TikTok and socials and all that good stuff.
Hook up on TikTok?
Sure, why not? Hey, throw it out there. It's the Bonnet Head crowd. It's PG.
Okay.
Also, for more information about Little House 50th 2.0, right? So this is the being able to do the tour of Simi Valley and the Big Sky Ranch.
Yeah, Little House.
I don't know if it's...
Yes, exactly. Where we want to go for that. I think you want to go for, well, you can go to littlehousefestival.com.
Littlehousefestival.com.
And then I think the Facebook page, Little House on the Prairie, cast appearances for things outside perhaps of the festival.
Great.
And there's a lot of social identity around this year. So you can search it. 50th anniversary year, there's going to be stuff. Look for it. We're coming at you.
You could get the Nelly newsletter.
Yes, very good. Yes,
the Nelly newsletter. But the Nelly newsletter tries to cover the 8 million things.
Everything. Yeah, good. So that's good for people to know, because people do ask, are you going to Walnut Grove? Are you going to Missouri? And I say, yes,
we're going to all those places. Yes.
All those places.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll be continuing to do Q&As. Keep them coming. We love hearing from you. And Prairie on. Bob, get the wig. Let's fly.
Oh, we need to time that better.